Living at the moment seems to be a virtue people of the time has been encouraged to lash on. There's fundamentally nothing wrong about it, except when too much callous gets in the mix, affecting others negatively. The future is a constant looming of uncertainty, but we can commit to guesses and predictions. The past is spoiled milk, no point crying over. So of course, the appeal of the present is clear. What we have control over, at least without the pressure of limitations, is the present. But if you have been around, you may start to realize our past defines us more than you would like it to be the case down the road in our lives, something that various industries are aware and taking full advantage of. For who we are right now, we are the product of our past. No matter how much we favor the present, the past always keeps a reminder that its influence cannot be underestimated. Everything in the immediate future hinges on our past experiences after all. As I finally tackled Cowboy Bebop's feature film, Knocking on Heaven's Door, which brought the theme of the past from the TV series back to prominent again, I started to contemplate, fixating my lens on the past like one of Spike's eye does. The puzzle pieces missing from my view back then all came in touch and fitting into places, recontextualizing the entire series in my mind. It's always a pleasure having my feelings towards a classic increased twofold after so long. So if you would kindly give this video a like and subscribe to the channel, I'll have more chances like this in the future sharing it with you. Thank you for the support. I remember after my first viewing of the series, Bebop did not live on as a bona fide sci-fi series in my head down the line, even though most of the episodes opens with some shots in space. With the lens of exploring the subject we discussed today, it dawns on me that it was no mishaps after all, and how impressive that it was still able to subtly let the less comprehensible little young me into the point of the show with sublime writing and presentation. The sci-fi flavor escaped me because most of the pictures presented in the show were those of irrelevant times in the universe. Flashy lasers and high-tech machineries in the works were scarcely portrayed, with an aesthetic reminiscent of old-fashioned technology. The actions are always set in decaying locales, abandoned factories, old bars, outgrown by the cruel present. Grounded environment art with grittily designed citizens reminds they have seen better days. Personal objects with personal touches and worn-out public ones, stories about revenge and grudges. And the Bebop crew lives in a time where space traveling is common, yet the expanded horizon in no way sets them free from their pasts. This is a sci-fi that clings on the pocket of time's past, wearing its points on its sleeves. The world building, the characters, down to the very last iconic line of text sending it off melancholically. Going for an extra mile, the creation of the show itself was a product heavily influenced by the director Watanabe Shinichiro's past headspace at the time as well. The fact that it was also made in a period of time when cell animation was at the tail end of its relevancy, while digital production started phasing in to become the norm we now know. Time capsuled this production in a unique, transitional time period of bygone times, still loved, visit and revisit by many, living on as a timeless, beautiful relic of the past. It is also clear to me then why jazz takes prevalence as the music choice of the show, representing the present, as improvisation and spontaneity makes for jazz's soul. Perfectly fits the moment-to-moment drilling action sequences performed on screen. With all that epiphany, maybe it's no coincidence then that the next TV series Watanabe went on to create, has an affinity towards moving to the future. To think I'm able to get a clearer picture by re-examining my past experience after reaching the full stop of the series is, to me at least, mildly poetic. A fruitful time by making amends of my past, if you will. That is, if you would spare me from the Hollywood's very own live-action version. This fixation on the past was given the spotlight once more, constantly propagating throughout the entire film in the form of various elements, though it was done so by grounding us down in the present first. For a movie mostly known for the realistic fighting choreographs, the first half was unexpectedly slow burned. Criticisms on the pacing were plenty because of it, but I actually found it to be a commendable approach given the subject matter. Notably, the opening credit and the ending sequence both depict everyday lives with an almost hyper-real animation style. We then have a huge chill section of Spike going through the city, casually sniffing leads, accompanied by a laid-back country track as he walks through background art after background art paired with, yet again, familiar daily activities. Note that he went from a modern city center to an old market, wink wink. Until he takes a rest, the objective comes to him instead, with guiding light naughtily disguised as it pokes fun of reality. Now look at this room full of clocks, which has absolute no relation with the topic of this video. The persistent on reality showcased in the film portrays the present, building up to the confrontation of the past, this time embodied by the story of the antagonist, Vincent Wolajun. Suffering amnesia as a consequence of the Titan War over a decade ago, Vincent's disconnection with his past makes him a cold killer, used as a guinea pig of a weaponized nanomachines and its cure. He now brings atrocities using the same mean, pursued by a forgotten lover of his past, Electra Oviro. Lacking humanity but manages to smile menacingly, with on-point voice acting properly conveys the hollow shell of a man that he is now. Vincent is a serviceable villain for a 2-hour-long big-screen story, when you consider the film is trying to reinforce the points established back in the TV show. Harkening back to our iconic cast of characters, the story between Vincent and Electra mirrors that of both Spike and Faye individually. Electra in the shoes of Spike's and Vincent's in Faye's. But personally, I find the scenario of Vincent having Faye in captive came to be the stronger half. This Vincent Valentine combo speaks to me, and I'm going to tell you why. Perhaps it's her beauty at work, or that he instinctively felt a connection with this woman. Vincent kept Faye alive in their encounter, revealing his purpose, with an invitation to Faye to be his only peer of a new world. Faye declines with a sharp tongue, a tad bit more seriously than her usual ruthless attitude. We can hear a little bit of contempt mixed with confusion in Faye's response. Yet it sounds to me clear that she found Vincent's goal to be abhorrent, showing absolute no interest to be part of it. Anyone who have watched the TV series would immediately recall Faye's complication with her past. Just like Vincent, she has also detached from her past after waking up from cryogenic sleep, yet another victim of amnesia. So, this whole scene was set out to establish Vincent's character while reinforces Faye's, pitting their similarity against each other, servicing fans who have invested in the TV series in all senses of that forbidden word. Beyond her looks and design, it is Faye's story that marks my appreciation of the series ever since I watched it back in the days. The image of her hunchback posture sitting on a bed, watching the videotape recorded by her past in repeat is a vivid image seared in my mind, a default picture whenever Cowboy Bebop is recalled. It gave a moment of horror, sadness, the kind that won't invoke tears, and the extremely cozy room exudes from the shot could not cover the silent pain we felt from her focus. It almost felt wrong that I was allowed to have a peek of this moment. Putting myself on the table, I have long since considered myself as a guy who has died once. The exaggeration was meant for a bit of fun on my part, nothing too tragic, but there was indeed a past I couldn't quite connect anymore due to the change it forced upon me. And I believe you and I, we all do, for better or for worse. A life I lived not for myself, I still cringe at it frequently, over events big or small, priorities, personal outlook, and innocence. I hated myself for all of it, but I lived through to see myself evolved, and I would like to believe for the better. Not trying to sound refined here, but if there's a thing you can count on for self-improvement, the times you left behind, replayed countless times in your head, wrestling for answers or to come to terms with, is up there being one of the most important things that accompanies you onwards with your life. Chapters build upon the previous chapter. The past is something we occasionally must confront as we walk forward, no matter how unpleasant the process. Sometimes my brain just recalls them for no apparent reasons. Just like that, I'll need to endure them again. Experience, in the context of video games, either in terms of your innate improvement with the mechanics or the digital numerical progress, both induce growth. Given if you have gained more experiences, the past can even be understood. re-evaluated, or even closure. Even if amends couldn't be made with actions, you can still utilize it as a framework for subsequent experiences. That, in a sense, is irreplaceable values. Though I acknowledge some heavier circumstances may not allow for such lenient terms. After all, I can only speak from my own life experience. Take Vincent for example. Being one of the most unfortunate men in the series, one can only imagine how can anyone conquer such a past with positive reasonings. Citing the supposed folklore of Halloween and borrow it as the climax of his cruel show is a neat little detail denoting how the past takes relevance on this man. But a little extra info from Elektra during the cell scene also caught my attention. She told Spike, Vincent was born all alone, knowing only hate and the will to fight, suggesting a traumatic past since young age. But when that very history has slipped away due to amnesia, it can very well be a godsend for his life to turn for the better, freedom to start from scratch, carve out a new path without the burden he once struggled. Yet the wheel of fate turns for the worse on him instead. A fresh start is an option he couldn't see, when the very beginning of his remaining memories was the gruesome aftermath of the nanomachine experiment. The beautiful scenery given by the virus serves as a constant reminder of a specific moment when hate took roots. Now, without the memory of his lover, which was the only positive in his entire life, his very foundation contains more hatred than ever. It's the world that's insane, he declares, justifying his actions, bringing the wrongs done on him onto innocent bystanders, extending the cycle of hate. And befittingly, part of his past, the nice one, has caught on to his twisted present. And only at the final moment when that piece of pleasant memory flashes by, he dies without regret. A man trapped in hatred still deserves a touch of salvation at his dying breath. Both Vincent and Faye's tragedy tells us there's no escaping from the past. They pull us like gravity, like roots of a tree. Without physicality nor memories of it, our past remains part of us, inseparable. As much as we shun it hoping to forget, toss it into the depths of subconscious, without it to sustain our food might just be the worst. Lost souls in the purgatory seeking for the door to heaven. Faye's commitment declining Vincent shows the differences of their new current beliefs. A different set of qualities they hang onto, adapted and processed at the present in the absence of their past. To think that Faye would prefer living in a dangerous life chasing bounties, wasting them over gambling, and even risk her life refusing a madman who might just kill her on the spot if she says no, speaks for Faye's resolution. Considering we know the event of the movie happened between episode 22 and 23 of the TV series, where Faye's existential crisis have reached a higher point by contemplating over the tapes from her past for quite some time now, her decline here feels weightier as a choice. And I think it shines a bit of a bright light on Faye's conclusion as well, even though it's not much. Whereas Faye would declare she is living on by literally making a place for herself in the present, Vincent makes others suffer his misfortunes, repeating the past. This puts a distinct line between these two poor souls, two paths you and I could choose when time comes. Looking back at Faye's final moment in the show, perhaps I too had adapted her outlook in order to live on without realizing I did. There was no aha, no fanfare settling on that tie left untied. Time goes on and so do I. And maybe one day when we look back at those catastrophic turning points of our lives, it may felt like they have been conquered, however messy we have left them behind. This entire exchange between the two, while I suppose not a lot may find as resonating as I did, was an elation to witness. Aside from pushing the wakened sleeping beauty to the next level of wifedom, it is Cowboy Bebop's mantra ringing once more. Whereas most fans would recite Spike's eyes as the representation of the show's message, I say don't count Vincent Valentine out. This movie made a point just as strong. As the story ends, the film led us through the city once again as we did earlier, shot by shot exactly the same locations, retreading the stagnated yesterday. So similar, yet so different. One last statement to close the show. In order to live on, everyone leaves a trail. With it, complications, habits, mistakes, decisions, risk aversion, trauma, regrets, aspirations, lost. We cannot separate all these without having to experience something first. The self we now know, with all our quirks and characteristics, are formed by the road we left behind. The inescapability of the past can both be a boon or a curse, a trap or liberation. Mistakes can be a lesson. A fond memory reminds of a better time may also induce depressed thoughts in compare with a duller present. Numerically speaking, the past always outnumbers the present. Every passing second leaves them to the past. Perhaps why we so desperately trying to live at the moment is so that whatever left behind can be lighter. Sandwiched in between past and future, it is only now we feel tangible. Even though the urgency of the current are demanding and we end up scraping by with compromises out of our controls. Acknowledge that past were once present. Be conscious that everything we do now will live on as part of us. As we grow, they keep piling up, massless, invisible, yet pushes us on every step of the present.